बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलामुअलैकुम। आज के इस वीडियो में हम देखेंगे इंट्रोडक्शन टू लिंग्विस्टिक्स। की पॉइंट्स कौन कौन से हैं इस यूनिट में? अबाउट लैंग्वेज, द डेफिनेशन ऑफ लैंग्वेज, डिज़ाइन फीचर्स ऑफ लैंग्वेजेस, फंक्शन ऑफ लैंग्वेजेस, अबाउट लिंग्विस्टिक्स, मेन ब्रांचेस ऑफ लिंग्विस्टिक्स, इम्पॉर्टेंट डिस्टिंक्शन इन लिंग्विस्टिक्स, डज द एनिमल हैव लैंग्वेजेस। ये जो सब पॉइंट्स हैं ये हम लोग इस वीडियो में देखेंगे, ठीक है। लिंग्विस्टिक्स, सिंपली द स्टडी ऑफ अ लैंग्वेज। लिंग्विस्टिक्स क्या है? किसी भी लैंग्वेज की स्टडी को हम लिंग्विस्टिक्स कहते हैं। व्हाट इज़ लैंग्वेज? लैंग्वेज क्या है? इज़ लैंग्वेज ह्यूमन स्पेसिफिक? डू एनिमल हैव अ लैंग्वेज? द डेफिनेशन ऑफ लैंग्वेज। सबसे पहले क्या है, हम लोग लैंग्वेज की डेफिनेशन देखेंगे। लैंग्वेज इज़ अ प्योरली human and non-instructive method of communication ideas, emotion and desire by means of electronic produced symbols. Language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols which permit all people in a given cultures or other people have learned the system of the culture. लैंग्वेज क्या होती है? आप अपने सिस्टम के थ्रू सीखते हो, लोगों से सीखते हो, अपनी लैंग्वेज से सीखते हो। जब आप एक दूसरे से कम्युनिकेशन करते हो तो बगैर कम्युनिकेशन के आप एक दूसरे से बात नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है। ठीक है, तो लैंग्वेज कहाँ से हम सीखते हैं? अपनी कल्चर से सीखते हैं, अपने इन्वायरमेंट से सीखते हैं, ठीक है। अगेन एक और डेफिनेशन देखेंगे लैंग्वेज की। लैंग्वेज इज़ अ सिस्टम्स ऑफ द डेफिनेशन ऑफ लैंग्वेज। लैंग्वेज इज़ अ सिस्टम ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन बाय साउंड। लैंग्वेज एक ऐसा सिस्टम है जिसके थ्रू जो हम लोग कम्युनिकेशन के साउंड्स के थ्रू सीखते हैं, ऑपरेटिंग थ्रू द ऑर्गन्स ऑफ स्पीच। लोगों की स्पीचेस से सीखते हैं अमंग मेंबर ऑफ अ गिवन कम्युनिटी एंड यूजिंग अ वोकल सिस्टम्स सिम्बल्स, ठीक है। तो क्या चीज़ हम देख रहे हैं हर डेफिनेशन में कि लैंग्वेज जो है हम अपने कल्चर से सीखते हैं, कम्युनिकेशन के थ्रू सीखते हैं, ठीक है। नेक्स्ट देखते हैं हम लोग डेफिनेशन ऑफ अ लैंग्वेज, द जनरली एक्सपेक्टेड डेफिनेशन। ये जनरली जो है एक्सपेक्टेड डेफिनेशन है। लैंग्वेज इज़ अ सिस्टम ऑफ आर्टिकुलेट वोकल सिम्बल्स यूज्ड फॉर ह्यूमन कम्युनिकेशन। एक आर्बिट्रेटरी वोकल सिंबल्स होते हैं जो लैंग्वेज को बनाते हैं, जो ह्यूमन कम्युनिकेशन में यूज़ होते हैं। ये जो डेफिनेशन है ये जनरली एक्सपेक्टेड है, ठीक है। एक्सप्लेनेशन, फर्स्टली लैंग्वेज इज़ अ सिस्टम Firstly, language is a system. The elements of a language are combined according to the rules. A blick, being, he, would, has, अनएक्सपेक्टेबल, ठीक है। लैंग्वेज सबसे पहले क्या करते हैं, काफ़ी एलिमेंट्स को मिलाते हैं तो एक लैंग्वेज बनती है। ये रूल्स हैं लैंग्वेज के, ठीक है। सेकेंडली, लैंग्वेज इज एट्रीब्यूट द सेंस दैट देयर इज़ नो इंट्रिंसिक connection between the word pen and the thing we used to write with. सेकेंडली ये कि जो चीज़ जिस चीज़ से हम लिख रहे होते हैं उसका बोलने से और उस काम से कोई तल्लुक नहीं होता। लाइक जैसे पेन है तो वो लिखने के लिए इससे कोई रिलेशन नहीं है, वर्ड का साउंड से कोई रिलेशन नहीं है, ठीक है। नेक्स्ट देखते हैं हम द फैक्ट दैट डिफरेंट लैंग्वेजेस हैव डिफरेंट वर्ड्स। Different languages has a different words for the same object is a good illustration of the arbitrary nature of a language. अब क्या है, डिफरेंट फैक्टर हैं, डिफरेंट वर्ड्स हैं, डिफरेंट वर्ड्स यूज़ होते हैं डिफरेंट लैंग्वेजेस बोलने के लिए। दिस आल्सो एक्सप्लेन द सिम्बॉलिकल नेचर ऑफ अ लैंग्वेज। वर्ड्स आर जस्ट सिम्बल्स। वर्ड्स क्या होते हैं? सिर्फ सिंबल्स होते हैं। दे आर एसोसिएटेड विद द ऑब्जेक्ट्स। वो क्या होते हैं? एसोसिएटेड होते हैं ऑब्जेक्ट्स के साथ, एक्शन आइडियाज़ के साथ, बाय कन्वेंशन के साथ, ठीक है। A rose by any name will smell as sweet. ठीक है. Thirdly, language is a vocal. Language जो है vocal है because the primary medium is sound for all languages, no matter how well developed their writing system. All evidence pointed to the fact that writing system can enter being much later than the spoken form, and that they are only attempt to capture sounds and meaning on a paper. Children, spoken language, read and write. सबसे पहले बच्चा बोलना सीखता है, ठीक है, लर्न करता है. उसके बाद जो है वो लैंग्वेज को स्पोक करता है. उसके बाद जो है उसको लिखता है और पढ़ता है. ठीक है. डिज़ाइनिंग फीचर्स ऑफ लैंग्वेज. डिज़ाइनिंग फीचर ऑफ लैंग्वेज अब कौन कौन से हैं? रेफर्स टू द कॉन्टेक्स्टेशनल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ऑफ ह्यूमन लैंग्वेज which can destination any human languages system from any non-human languages. The cover attribute duality, creativity, displacement, and culture transmissions. Design features of language. Arbitrate. This feature was first proposed by Saussure. ठीक है. सशोर ने सबसे पहले जो है इसको प्रपोज किया था. द फॉर्म ऑफ लिंग्विस्टिक साइंस बार बेयर नो नेचुरल लॉजिकल रिलेशनशिप टू देयर मीनिंग. किसी भी वर्ड का उसके मीनिंग के साथ कोई रिलेशनशिप नहीं है. डिफरेंट साउंड आर यूज टू रेफर द सेम ऑब्जेक्ट इन अ डिफरेंट लैंग्वेज. ठीक है. तो ये सबसे पहले सशोर ने बताया था. Arbitrates a lexical level, a rose by any other name will smell as sweet. ठीक है. शेक्सपियर ने बोला था ये. At the syntactic level, language is not articulated at the syntactic level. He come in and sat down. He sat down and come in. He sat down after he come in. तो जो लैंग्वेज है, ये जो वर्ड्स हैं, उनके अरेंजमेंट्स के साथ हम लोग डिफरेंट मैसेज कन्वे कर सकते हैं. ठीक है. हाउ टू अंडरस्टैंड आर्बिट्रेरी एंड कन्वेंशन. डिज़ाइन फीचर्स ऑफ लैंग्वेज. ड्यूअलिटी. लैंग्वेज पोजेस द प्रॉपर्टी ऑफ हैविंग टू लेवल्स ऑफ स्ट्रक्चर. ठीक है. ड्यूअलिटी क्या है? Language possesses the property of having two levels of structures, sound level and meaning. Sound lower a basic level, meaning जो होते हैं वो higher level पे होते हैं. Sounds are combined with one and other to form meaningful units such as words. The secondary unit sounds are meaningless and the primary units have a distinct identifiable meaning. Design features of a languages. Creativity. Languages can be used to send message we have never said or heard before. Creativity is a unique to human languages. Language is a creativity in that it makes possible the construction and interpretation of the new single by its uses. क्रिएटिविटी क्या होती है? वर्ड कैन बी यूज्ड इन अ न्यू वे टू मीन अ न्यू थिंग्स. जब आप किसी लफ्ज़ को किसी और मीनिंग में यूज़ करते हो तो क्या होता है? वो तब्दील हो जाता है. ठीक है. एंड कैन बी इंस्टेंटली अंडरस्टूड बाय अ पीपल हु हैव नेवर कम अक्रॉस दैट यूसेज बिफोर. ठीक है. Language is a resourceful because of its duality and recursion. The recursive nature of a language provides a potential to create an infinite number of endless sentences. Limited rules can produce unlimited sentences. ये चॉम्स्की ने बोला था. ठीक है. For instance, this is the cat that killed the rat. ठीक है. That are the mal that lay in the house that Jack built. He brought a book which was written by a teacher who taught in the school which was known for its graduate who. ठीक है. Displacement. Human languages enable their uses to symbol. अब ये जो है ना डिज़ाइन फीचर्स ऑफ लैंग्वेज है, सबसे पहला है डिस्प्लेसमेंट. Human languages enable their uses to symbolize objects, events, and concepts which are not present in time and space and the moment of communication. Thus, we can refer conflicts are the northern pole, even though the first has been dead for over 200 to 2550 years, and the second is situated far away from us. Animal communication is normally under immediate stimulated control. For instance, a warning cry of a bird instantly announced danger. My master will be home in a few days. Okay? The honeybee's dance excitedly displacement a little bit. He can refer a source of food which is remote in time and space, and when he reports on it, displacement. Human languages is stimulus free. Human language is a stimulate free. What we are talking about need not be targeted by any external stimulants. Our languages enable use to communicate about things that do not exist or do not yet exist. Okay? Displacement benefit human beings by giving us the power to handle generalization and abstractions. Design feature of languages. Culture transmission. Animal call systems are genetically transmitted. Language is culturally transmitted. It is passed one from one generation to the next by teaching and learning rather than by instincting. Topic for discussion. No matter how violently dog may bark, he can't tell you that his parents were poor but honest. A rose by other name would smile as sweet Shakespeare. He bought a book which was written by a teacher who taught in a school which was known for its graduate who. Next year, do we have languages? What if there were no language? क्या हो कि अगर कोई language ही ना हो? What function does language play in daily life? Languages function. Meta function of language proposed by Halliday. Attentional function, a model of experiences as well as logical relation. Interpersonal function to establish and maintain social relationship. Textual function to create relevance to context. Languages function. लैंग्वेज फंक्शन इंफॉर्मेटिव होते हैं. लैंग्वेज का ये फंक्शंस हैं. इंट्रापर्सनल होते हैं. परफॉर्मेटिव, इमोटिव, फैटिक कम्युनिके, रिक्रिएशनल, मेटालिंगुअल. फंक्शनल ऑफ फंक्शंस ऑफ लैंग्वेज सबसे पहले इंफॉर्मेटिव देखते हैं. Language is used to convey message, that is to inform somebody of some information. Declarative sentences are employed to release the function. One of the features of these functions is the proposition has the true or false value. One of the features of this function is the proposition has the true or false value. Water boils at 90 degree. Water boils at 1000. Function of language. Interpersonal. By far the most important social languages use of language and by which people establish and maintain their status in a society. Polite expression, humble words, expression of identity. For example, the way in which people address others, dear sir, dear professor, dear John, and refer to themselves, indicated the various grades of interpersonal relations. नेक्स्ट देखते हैं interpersonal. In the framework of functional grammar, it is concerned with the interaction between the address and in the address, the discourse situation and the addresser's attitude towards what the speaks are right about. Performatic function. This concept originates from the philosophical study of language represented by Austin and Cyril, whose theory known from the backbone of pragmatic. For example, I now declare the meeting open. I bet you £2 it will return tomorrow. Function of language. Performatic function. It is change the social status of person as in marriage ceremony, the synthetic of criminals, the blessing of children, the naming of a ship, and at a launching ceremony, and the cursing of enemies, formal and ritualized. The performative function can extend to the control of reality as a some magical or religious occasion. For example, in China, when someone breaks a bowl or a plate, the host or the people present are likely to. ये इन्होंने चाइना का बताया, ठीक है. नेक्स्ट देखते हैं फंक्शंस ऑफ लैंग्वेज. ओमेटिव फंक्शन. To change the emotion state of an audience for against against someone or something, swear words, absence. To change the emotion status of an audience or against someone or something, swear words, involuntary work, reaction to beautiful art or censor. Fatigue communication. It refers to the social interaction of language small, seemingly meaningless topic to maintain a comfortable relationship between involving factual content, health weather, expression that help define and maintain interpersonal relations, such as slangs, jokes, jargons, realistic exchanges, switches to social and regional dialects. Fatigue communication. We all use such a small and seemingly meaningless expression to maintain a comfortable relationship between people without involving any factual content. Good morning, good bless you, nice day, hello. Function of language, recreational functions. To use language for the sheer joy of using it's such a baby babbling and canto, verbal tolling. Function of language. Languages can be used to talk about itself. Meta language, certain kinds of linguistic science. लैंग्वेज ये थे मेटालिंग फंक्शन लैंग्वेज के। आप देखें ये जो है इन्होंने सबको जो है आपको डिफाइन करके बताया है सेपरेट सेपरेट। Linguistics can be defined as a scientific or systematic study of language. It is a science in the sense that it scientifically study the rules, systems, and a principle of human languages. Linguistics has two main purposes. One is that it studies the nature of a language and tries to establish a theory of a language and describe languages in the light of theory established. The other is that it examines all the forms of language in a journal and seek a scientific understanding of the ways in which it is organized to fulfill the needs it serves and the function it performs in human life. About linguistics. अब लिंग्विस्टिक्स में जो हैं ब्रांचेस आती हैं फोनेटिक्स सिंटैक्स, ठीक है, ये सारी देखेंगे हम। स्कोप ऑफ लिंग्विस्टिक्स. माइक्रो लिंग्विस्टिक्स इंक्लूड फोनेटिक्स, फोनोलॉजी, मॉर्फोलॉजी, सिंटैक्स, semantics and pragmatics. Macrolinguistics include sociolinguistics, psychological linguistics, narrow-linguistics, stylistic, discourse analysis, computational linguistics, cognitive linguistics, and applied linguistics, extra. Core branches of linguistics. Linguistics, language, sound, words, sentence, and meaning. Phonetics, साउंड को कहते हैं, फोनोलॉजी वर्ड्स को कहते हैं, सेंटेंस मॉर्फोलॉजी होते हैं, मीनिंग सिंटैक्स को कहते हैं, ठीक है। मैक्रो लिंग्विस्टिक्स परहैप्स ब्रांच। साइकोलॉजिकल लिंग्विस्टिक्स में क्या लैंग्वेज और साइकोलॉजी आती है। सोशल लिंग्विस्टिक्स में लैंग्वेज और सोसाइटी आती है। एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्टिक्स लिंग्विस्टिक्स के अंदर जो है लैंग्वेज और एंथ्रोपोलॉजी आती है, ठीक है। कंप्यूटेशनल लिंग्विस्टिक के अंदर लैंग्वेज एंड कंप्यूटर आता है, ठीक है। माइक्रो लिंग्विस्टिक्स के अंदर फोनेटिक्स आती है। इज द साइंटिफिक ऑफ स्टडी of speech sound. It studies how speech sounds are articulated, transmitted and received. Phonology के अंदर क्या आता है? Is the study of how speech sound function in a language. It studies the way speech sounds are organized. It can be seen as the functional phonetics of a particle language. Morphology is the study of the formation of a word. It is a branch of linguistics which breaks words into morphemes. It can be considered as the grammar of a word as a syntax is the grammar of a sentence. Syntax कौन से होते हैं? Deals with the combination of a word into the phrases, clauses and sentences. It is the grammar of a sentence construction. Semantics क्या होती है? Is the branch of linguistics which is concerned with the study of meaning in all formal aspects. Words have a several types of meaning. Pragmatics can be defined as the study of language in use. It deals with how speakers use language in ways which can't be predicted from linguistics knowledge alone and how her activity at the interior meaning of the speaker. Pragmatics, meanings, semantics. Social linguistics study the relation between language and society, how social factors influence the structure and use of a language. Psychological linguistics. It is the study of language and mind, the mental sentence, structure, and processes which are involved in the acquisition, comprehensive, and procedure of a language. Neurolinguistics. It is the study of language processing and language representation in the brain. It typically study the distribution of a language, comprehensive and production caused by the damage of a certain area of the brain. ठीक है? Microlinguistics. Stylistics. Stylistics is the study of how literary effects can be related to linguistic features. It usually refers to the study of written languages, including literary texts, but it also investigates spoken languages sometimes. Discourse analysis or text linguistics is the study of relationship between languages and context. In which language is used. It deals with how sentence in spoken and written language from large meaningful units. Computational linguistics. It is an approach to linguistics which employ mathematical techniques often with the help of computer. Cognitive linguistics is an approach to the analysis of applied linguistics is primarily concerned with the application of linguistic theories, methods, and findings to the elucidation of language problems which have arisen in other areas of experiences. Descriptive versus prescriptive. Descriptive. If linguistic study describe and analyze language people actually use, it is said to be a descriptive. If it aims to lay down rules for correct behavior, for example, to tell people what they should say, what they should not say, it is said to be a prescriptive. Do not say X, people do not say X. The first is a prescriptive command, while the second is a descriptive statement. The distinction lies in prescribing how things taught to be and describing how things are. Descriptive versus prescriptive. Most modern linguistics is a descriptive. It attempts to describe what people actually say. Traditionally, grammar told people how to use language. As traditional grammar tried to lay down rules, they are often called perspectives. Descriptive grammar attempt to tell what is in the language, while prescriptive grammar people what should be in the language. Language change and develop the change should be observed and described. This does not deny that language have a rules. Synchronic and diachronic. Language can be studied at a given point in the time or over time. When we study language at a one particular time at a some point of time in a history, it is called synchronic linguistics. When we study language development through time, it is called diachronic or historical linguistics. Synchronical linguistics focuses on the state of a language at any point in a history, while diachronic linguistics focus on a different in two or more than two states of language over decade or centuries. Language versus parole. The distinction made by Swiss linguist after Saussure in the early 20th century. Language and parole are French words. Language refer to the abstract linguistic system shared by all the members of a speech community, and parole refer the realization of a language in an actual use. Language is a set of convention and rule which language use all have to abide by, and parole is the concrete concrete use of a convention and the application of the rule. Language is abstract. It is not the language people actually use. Parole is a concrete. It refers to the naturally occurring languages events. Important distinction in linguistics: competence and performance. Proposed by American linguist Chomsky in the late 1950s, competence, the ideal usage knowledge of the rule of his language. Performance is the actualization of this knowledge in the linguistic communication. According to Chomsky, a speaker has internalized a set of rules about his language. This enables him to produce and understand an infinite large number of sentences and recognize sentences that are ungrammatical and ambiguous. Then what the distinction between Chomsky and Saussure? देखें अगर चॉम्स्की ने अपने पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू दिए हैं और सिशोर ने अपने पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू दिए हैं तो इनमें क्या फ़र्क होगा? Important distinction in languages. Language is a social product and a set of convention for a community, while competence is a demand as a property of the mind of each individual. Saussure looks at a language more from a sociological and social linguistics. Chomsky, since the later deals with his issues psychological and psycholinguistics. Important distinction in ethic and versus emic. The two terms originated from the American linguistics prior definition of phonetics and phonemics. Ethic is related to an approach to the study of particle language or a culture that is a general non-structure and objective and its perspective. Being ethic, making for too many as well as behavioral inconstructional differentiate just as was often the case with phonetics and phenomenon analysis in linguistics proper. Amic is related to an approach to the study of particle language or a culture in a term of its internal elements and their functioning rather than in a term of an exciting external scheme. That is to say, an amic set of speech, act, and events must be one that is validate and meaningful while final resources to the native member of a speech community rather than while appeal to the investigators encanting or intuition alone. अब मैं आपको बताऊंगी origin of a language. Region of language slides share लैंग्वेज का ओरिजिन कैसे हुआ ये मैं आपको बताऊंगी. Origin of a language. What is language? How did language are oriented? What are the reasons behind the diversity of a language on our present days? What is language? Language is one of the best meaning by which human communicate. Importance of a language. Language is everywhere. Primates our thoughts, meditate our relation with other, creep into our dream, and in it human knowledge and culture is stored and transmitted. So without it, all above points are impossible. How and when did language originated? Most of the Western linguistics and philosophers believe there was a time when people did not have a ability to talk. Humans developed language between 10,000 50 years ago, but written language appears 5,000 years. There is no physical evidence about when and how of language in human emerged. All what is said in this regard is a matter of speculation. Some of these speculations are from four different sources: natural sound sources, physical adaptation sources, genetic sources, divine sources. Natural sound sources. The suggest of this source primitive word could have been emissions of a natural sounds which early men heard around them. Caw sound of flying object, cuckoo sound of flying creature. People started to imitate the sound and name the object and creature with these sounds. In addition to cuckoo, splash, bang, boom, rattle, buzz, hiss, rod, this is known by Bow theory. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट देखेंगे हम the problem of Bow theory. How reference was made to their soundless word, abstract concepts, natural crisis of motion, pain, anger, discotheque. These are produced with the intake of a breath, but normal spoken languages is produced when air is exhaled rather than inhaled. Yo-he-ho theory. Sound made due to the physical effort involving several people could be source of our languages. Grant, groan, crosses. This theory is based on the social and culture cooperation found among early men. However, apes having a grant, but they do not have a language like our Bovo theory. natural crisis of emotion, and yo-he-ho theory. These all theories are included in a natural sound sources. Physical adaptation sources. The sources depends on the physical features human possess, especially those that are distinct from other creature. Human physical features that help language. Human teeth are upright. Human teeth are upright. The lips are made of intricate muscles. PB. The tongue is also helpful. Human human larynx, voice box containing vocal cord, pharynx restenoted. Human brain left hemisphere in most of the pupil is responsible for controlling above organ speeches. Genetic source. The genetic source, the reason how physically adaptation take place in human, why deaf and dumb can be fluent sign languages used in unaware by sporting of intensive emphasis. Offspring are born with a special capacity for a language. The language capacity is a genetical hardware in born babies. Diagnosis. In most of the world, religious languages is regarded as a gift from God to the human. Hinduism, service Brahman wife has given a language to a human as a gift. In Judaism, Christians, and Islam, and he taught Adam the names of all things. Then he placed them before the angel and said, "Tell me the names of these if you are right." He has taught him man's speech and intelligence. Some experiments, prismatic 25 years ago, other experiment later in speechless children. Why do people speak different languages if they first had one languages? Question. Language device is a curious to humanity. But the Lord come down to see the city and the through the people were building. The Lord said, if as one people speaking the same language they have a being going to do this. Quran. Language diversity is one sign of a God's supreme power, and one of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth and diversity of your tongue and a color. Mostly surely they are sign in this for the learned. We send not a messenger except to teach in the language of his own people in order to make things clear to them. Qala Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, now we see the definition of linguistics. Linguistics can be defined as the scientific or systematic study of languages. It is a science in the sense that it scientifically study the rules, systems, and principles of human languages. Linguistics is a guide by three canons of science. Exosysteminus. It strives from through the cognizance in the examination of relevant material. Consistency, that is, there should be no contradiction between different parts of the total system. Economic, other things being equal, as a shorter statement or analysis is to be preferred to one that is longer or more complex. One is the that study the nature of a language and tries to establish a theory of a language and describe language in the light of the theory established. The other is that examine all the form of the languages in journal and seek a scientific understanding of the way in which it is organized to fulfill the needs it serves and the functions it performs in a human life. The first linguistics describe and does not lay down rules of correct. Linguistics are interested in what is said, not what they think ought to be said. Often said to be descriptive, non perspective. A second important way in which linguistics differ from traditional grammar is linguistics regards the spoken languages as primarily, not the written. It is believed that speech comes into being first for any human languages and the writing system come along much later. Thirdly, traditionally grammar is based on Latin and tries to impose the Latin categories and structures on the other languages, while the linguistics describe each language on its own merits. Use of studying linguistics. For a student of a language, for a teacher of foreign language, for a researcher. For a student of a language, to know the general properties of language can help the student to have an overview of human languages, which in turn will stop him from asking unnecessary questions. He will definitely benefit a great deal from the knowledge of linguistics. He will learn about not only how language is pronounced or structured, but also how it should be presented to learner. He will learn not only how each level of the language system is related to the other level, but also how language is closely related to many things outside itself, such as the mind, the brain, and society, among other things. There is even more scope for displaying his abilities. First, there are various branches of linguistics, each of which is equally fantastic and challenging. Secondly, linguistics research is going deeper and deeper, often from the description to logical and philosophical explanation. Thirdly, linguistics is become more and more interdisciplinary, which means that it draws on the finding of other disciplines while it also sheds light on their research. Microlinguistics, including phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. Microlinguistics, including social linguistics, psycholinguistics, neurolinguistics, stylist, discourse analysis, computational linguistics, cognitive linguistics, and applied linguistics. Microlinguistics. Phonetic is the scientific study of speech sound. It studies how speech sounds are articulated, transmitted, and received. Phonology is the study of how speech sound function in a language. Phonology is the study of speech sounds functions in a language. It studies the way speech sounds are organized. It can be seen as the functional phonetics of particle language. Morphology is the study of the formation of the word. It is a branch of linguistics which breaks words into morphemes. It can be considered as the grammar of a word as a syntax is a grammar of a sentence. Syntax, syntax deals with the combination of a word into phrases, clauses, and sentence. It is a grammar of sentence construction. Semantics is a branch of linguistics which is concerned with the study of meaning in all its formal aspects, who have several types of meaning. Pragmatics can be defined as the study of language in use. It deals with how speakers use language in which way can't be predicted from linguistic knowledge alone, and how hears arrives at the intended meaning of speaks. Pragmatic meaning semantic. Social linguistics studies the relationship between language and society, how social factors influence the structure and use of a language. Psycholinguistics is the study of language and mind, the mental structure and process which are involved in the acquisition, comprehension, and production of a language. Neurolinguistics is the study of language processing and language's representation in the brain. It typically studies the disturbance of a language compression and production caused by the damage of a certain area of the brain. Stylistic is the study how literary effects can be related to a linguistic features. It usually refers to the study of written languages, including literary texts, but it also investigates spoken languages sometimes. Discover analysis or text linguistics is the study of the relationship between language and the context in which language is used. It deals with the how sentence is spoken and written language from large meaningful units. Computational linguistics is an approach to linguistics which employ mathematical technique often with the help of a computer. Cognitive linguistics is an approach to the analysis of a natural languages that focuses on a language and an instrument for organizing, processing, and conveying information. Applied linguistics is a primarily concerned with the application of linguistics theory, method, and finding to the education of language problems which have arises in other areas of experiences. And the next topic is why we speak a language. Why do humans have a language? An evolutionary biologists argue that humans stress talking because they need to negotiate it. Sometimes around 12,000 years ago, in the desert near Odopli and what modern day Algerian, human acquired some seashells. The shells was from a species known grapsides that lives in the shallow water of Mediterranean Sea, and they were perfumed and made into a bed bubbling for necklaces. If evidence of what anthropologists call symbolic behavior, the use of seashells for decorative aesthetic purposes as far back years ago is not a string enough on its own. Our species arose in Africa about 16,000 to 20,000 years ago. Ten of thousand of years later, when the person acquired those seashells, all human groups were living as a hunter-gatherers with only the most primitive of total technology and shelters. Farming will not be invented for any other 11,000 years, and metalworking and writing not for any other 5,000 years. Also, after there was no roads and no markets by thing from. There is a evidence that humans were engaged in economic activities from our earliest time. Our ancestors were engaging in trade. Today, this kind of behavior is taken for granted, and the commerce is in generated is the basic of the world economics. But human economic transactions, such as those at Atlantic and Big Brain coins Netherhaddle, we were alive at the same time as these bad trading humans of Algeria. There is no compelling evidence of symbolic behavior or trait apart from a few sector instances of flower petals in shallow grapes. The reason might be that even the simplest of exchange requires a sophisticated set of rules and understanding. How can I trust you to give me something of equal value of my shells? The reason might be that even a simplest exchange requires sophisticated set of the rules and understanding. How can I trust you to give me something of equal value for my shells? How do I know you will not steal my core goods and just run off? And how do we ever agree in the first place on worth of our respective atoms? This last question is in some way the most important because the answer might just explain any other enigma about humans are possessive of languages, just as we are only species to have a complex system of trade and exchange. We are also the only species that the language and it might just have its origin in our earliest economic behavior. Some might argue that language and in a turn trade naturally emerged from the journal purposes cognitive mechanism that come with the evolving brains, but language is so specialized and trade is so advantageous that there is a reason to believe natural selection. zeroed in on speech and handly adoption. I like to think of our language as a piece of social technology developed for managing the demands of the phospholytic social lives based on traits. Here is a reason all animals communicating, whether it be a vegan, wordless break, orders, colors, chemical signals, shaper. These familiar sights, sounds, and smell can vary in their intensity and presence. They might signal an animal states or intention or indicated its physical prowess. They might tell or predict it has been spotted or send a message to neighbor relative about an imminent danger. Human language, on the other hand, is a complexional. We alone communicate in a sentence composed of discrete words that take the role of subjects, voice, objects. Unlike animal communication, our languages allow us to combine and recombine subject, object, and verbs to make an endless variety of messages. Thus, your pet dog can tell you it is angry and even how angry it is, but it can't reconnect its life story. By comparing, we can use our language to look into the future, share the thoughts of others, and benefit from the wisdom of the past. We can make plans, cut deals, and reach agreements. We can woo prospective mates. We can describe who did what to whom, when they did it, and for what reason. We can describe how to do things and what things to avoid. We can express irony, spurious glee. We can be right or grave, precious, and derivative with you. Now, to see why language is important for economic activities, consider the following slide features but plausibly that might have played out between you and your fellows. Let imagine it is in a time when gen for language abilities was still evolving, so not everyone was yet capable of using it. You are good at making outward but the hopeless and making the wooden shafts to which they gave affixed. You know two people who are good at making the shaft but not good at making a road. One of them lives in a neighbor village where the people have not yet acquired the chance for languages. You approach the person in the neighbor village and lay down a pile of arrowwood in front of him, hoping he will get the idea that you want to trade arrowwood for finished arrows. But he thinks the arrowwood are a gift, smile, takes them, and walk off. You pressing him, scuffle insurance, and end up stabbing you with one of your own other word. Now reply the sense and imagine yourself approaching the person in your village who can speak. You lay down your award saying, I'd like to trade award for a finding arrows. She replies, Give me your award if I wouldn't shift the give you. It is possible that the transition could have been completed without languages, but with it the deal could be negotiated and fair price obtained. Further, the reputation, the arrow mark he earned from a previous exchange with our people had eventually sealed this mutual beneficial deal. So here we have not just a possible explanation for a language, but a probably one. The defining feature of modern human is the sophistication of our social behavior. Throughout our history as a species, we have engaged in a trade and exchange with the people outside of immediate families. The risk of being taken advantage of and the end of negotiating terms of agreement would have strongly forwarded the development of language in our species. Language can trump our skills and report teaching far beyond those who actually known as varying the scope and complexity of a trade. As soon as the psychological machinery that allow trade become available, people would have been able to specialize in the task they were best at and the trade their goods or services for things they were less good at doing or marketing. The economic principle noun comparative advantage and attributed to the early 19th century thinker. For this reason, I think of language and as a social technology for other animals. We do not engage in a trade to the condition of their activities and who all do more or less the same things all day long. There is not real much to talk about, at least there is not much more talk about than their form of communication already allow. As a result, natural selection were created in the them of expensive approaches we possess for using a language. It simply was not indeed. Certainly common pupil violent answers and people have numerous macrolistic questions. The study of history of language or philology, the learning of many languages are pololinguistics. Literary criticism or other fields involving a scale of values such as speech training, the traditional study of a grammar as carried on over the past 100 years in the most of our schools. What actually linguistics is: language, sound, structure, meaning. Branches of linguistics: phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntaxics. Branch of linguistics: semantic pragmatics. What can you be? Being a linguist. A degree in linguistics can be of a great value in a pursued career in education, publication, media, social services, communication, computer language, voice analysis researcher, communicative disorder, or other languages related field. Job title: areas of specialization: bilingual education, broadcaster, news reader, communication disorder specialist, copywriter, editor, grant prospect writer, interpreted language planner, lexicograph, professor, psycholinguistics, public relation, publication, researchers, technical writing, translation, and many more. Now we see the role of language planner in the society. How to use language planner. Why use a language planner? Why we need a language planner? Before we get into the how, you might well be asking what. Let clear up a few of the benefits of using a language planner before we get into the nitty-gritty. Accountability is a huge in language learning, and it comes in a many different forms. It could be that telling someone in the is the way to go for you, in which case using something like social media or joining clear the list for old work vendor of you. On the other hand, maybe the more personal, telling yourself in way or another is all you need in this instant language planner is a perfect. Giving yourself the chance to set the right goals in a space that feels comfortable for you without the need to broadcast it is exactly where all languages planner comes in. Writing down your goals will help to hold you accountable to your self worth. But goal setting alone is not enough. Reviewing is really why the magic happens. If only set goals do not review, then you are doing yourself as a devices. Reviewing gives you the chance be honest with yourself about what worked and what did not, because inevitably some stuff will not work for you, and that's totally okay. We are all are different. Taking title term regularly to review what you're learning and how you are doing it will help you to ensure you're making good progress with your language learning. Documentary. All of this goal setting and reviewing has an additional benefit too. You're documenting your languages. When times get thick, you feel like you are on an uphill battle with your language learning. Just take a look back your previous goals, review and note to make you realize how far you come. How? Okay, so you are all ready to get busy planning with your languages planner, but how the heck do you even use it? The solo languages learn planner come with 12 different planning pages divided into the following groups: calendars, goal settings, review, daily planners. You definitely don't need to use them all at once. In fact, I encourage you not to instead take a look through a pick the planning pages that are best for you right now to help you get stuff done. Here's a close look at some of them. project planner. Sometimes you just want to learn a language for a little bit of time, maybe for a holiday or work trip. Sometimes you just need boosting in one area of language you already learning and need a focus project to help you to get stuff done. This one page planner help you to figure out the detail of your project, including that timeline you want to work, the balance of offline, online, and real contact with the pupil, resources you are using, and for what areas of development, such as reading, grammar, speaking, etc. There are also to do check, including to map over everything you want to get done in a clear and consequent list, and saying as a just one page it fits perfectly in the front of your folder or stuck on your wall. First impression goals. Sometimes you just feel inspired and need to get down on a paper. The whole planner is digital so you can't type right into your computer if you prefer. You see a film in a brand new language to you or meet someone who speaks a language you will never heard of. When you are not looking for a fluency but just to learn few words, this is the perfect simple planning page to keep your inspiration alive. Onion plus later goal. For the time when the simple first impression goal planning page are not enough, Soul Language Learner Planner include Onion plus later goal, complete with the example to show how to best use them. This is my favorite way to visual the language learning goals I am setting myself. You can't read more about here as we as well as the example and a blank temples for the simple vision of a both onion and a later goals. You also get example and temple for the advanced version of both too. The advanced version take into account different aspects of language learning. You want to focus on the achieve each goal. Study session or a project review. Like I mentioned above, review is as a key as the goal setting to make a real consistent progress. The reviewing page in the Soul Language Learner Planner is just that one page idyllic for quick and easy review. After all, no one wants to sit for a horse and analysis every single nook and carry on of their learning. We want to be learning. The speed up the process but ensure the still useful the review pages he check box and easy to answer question. Looking back and forward make sure your action and keeping progress. Lesson reading. Have you ever finished a lesson with the author and been a way to exert the react recap what you just studied together and then never go back to it and forget it by next time you meet to the lesson record helps you be keeping track the lesson you have a foreign language the soul of the language planner the just few of the planning pages including the soul language learning planner to see the full of list language take look right here the planner is what is your regularly to get my language learning goals and plans out of my head in the front of me. Like I mentioned, the planner is print reader but also digital reader. The best part about the planner that is the cost is and the last forward quite. More get your copy. Solo languages, learner planners. A language is a system of articulatory vocal system by means of which social group co-current. Language is a set of finite number sentences, each finite in linguistics, and construct out of a finite set of elements. A language is a system of meaning, a semantic meaning. Language is a natural meaning to enable communication among peoples. Features of language: use of second language, second signal. Non-verbal communication is not a whispered as the use of sound, beast tenses. The use of sound by dolphin, birds, monkeys, humans, sound singles have advantage. Can be used in the dark at a some distance, leave the body free of activities. Animal communication. A strong link between the signal and a message and animals. A single message animal wish to warn of an opportune may be a sympathetic attacking attitude cat. In human languages, the reverse is true. Mostly no link between the signal and the message, the symbol used by the artery. The need for a learning. Most animals automatically know how to communicate without learning. Genetically input bee dancing is the sum. Human languages is a currently transmitted. A human being brought up in isolation does not acquiring language. Also, there is an innate predisposition towards language. A newborn child, this Latin potentially is activated by long exposed languages, acutely double articulated. A cow has under 10 vocal singles. Chicken has around 20. Dolphins have been between a third. Most animals can use each basic sounds only once. That is, the number of messages an animal can send is restricted to the number of basic sounds. Human language has a stock of sound units phonemes between 30 to 40. Each phoneme is meaningless in isolation and become a meaningful only when it is combined with other phonemes. Meaningless, meaningful, displacement. Animal communication in the immediate environment only for an expert utters its changer. Human language can cope with any subject whatever, and it does not matter how far away. The topic of conversation in a time and space. Animals have a very limited message that can send and receive. Human can produce novel alertness. A person can utter a sentence which has never been said before. Animal communication system non-internal organization within the system. Language. Human does not just post sound and word in a random way. Instead, ring the change on a few well-defined patterns for your possible arrangement. The grammar is structured. The language in order to acquire perform some operations. Minor feeding of features of language. Language travels pattern of how mind works. Language is mean of mental and social development. Language is a property of the individual as well as of the society. Language is a predictor of social identity. Languages are used for a culture preservation and transmission. Language can be used by some to extra their power over others. The direction of a change language is not predictable, while it exhibits variation. Self-talk can be regarded as a form of language. We talk in our mind, inner speech, using language for thinking. We can't help but to process and understand that we hear. Language unless recording files away. All the languages have the same potential for development. Language adaptive, flexible to accommodate new communication needs. What is linguistics? Normal conversation uses 4,000 to 5,000 words an hour. A radio talk where there are few pushes, house person reading at a normal speed covered 14,000 to 1,500 words per hour per day. Normal conversation, a radio talk where there are few pauses, uses many 800 to 9,000 words per hour. As much as people refuse to believe it, the company you keep does have an impact and influence on your voices. Children all over the world putting words together and approximately the same age and a fellow remarkable similar path in their speech. All the languages are similar in their basic structure. Linguistics answers. What is a language? How does language work? What do all languages have in common? What range of variation found in a language? How does human language differ from animal communication? How does a child learn to speak? How does one word write down? What do word languages change? The scientific or logical communication examination of any aspects and property of languages. Linguistics is a scientific study of language by means of controlled and dynamical variables and observation with reference to some general theories of language structure. Important distinction in linguistics: one, oral language versus written languages. Languages was first in spoken mode. Speech is not the same as writing as vice versa. Carefully organize idea in mind while writing. Idea before bore in mind instantly in speech. However, oral languages is richer than written languages. Next, descriptive and prescriptive. Descriptive description, the fact linguistics use as they are and not allowed it. Have the thought be with references to some real and magnetic ideals stated. Perspective, a term used to characterize perspective term used to characterize any purposeful approach which attempt to lay down rules of governance to how languages used to be. Synchronic language as study at a theoretical point in time. One describes state of a language disregarding whatever change might be taking place. Language and parole. The language system shared by a community of a speak. Parole, the concrete act of a speak in an actual situation by an individual speaker. Lingua, French meaning, and parole meaning speech. Language describes the social and impersonal phenomena of language as a system of sign, with the parole describe the individual person phenomena of language as a series, complete and performance, competence and performance. Competence. A person knowledge of his language, the system of rules which he has mastered so that he is able to produce and understand and identify number of sentences and to organize grammatically mistakes and ambiguity. Performance, the actual realization of a language seen at a set function and formalism. Function and formalism are a functional linguistics refer the study of the form of a language in a reference to their social function in a communication. Is the study of the abstract form of a language and their internal relations. It fixes on the form of a language and their internal relation. It fixes on the form of languages advances without considering how these forms and functions in a communication and the way of social life in a different communities. How does linguistics differ from a traditional grammar? Linguistics is a descriptive, not prescriptive, do not prescriptive rule of occurrence. Language change all the time. Linguistics do not judge but observe this different, not different form. Linguistics regards the spoken languages as a primary, not the. Linguistics does not forces languages into a Latin-based framework. In the past, textbooks assumed that Latin provides an universal framework into which all languages fit. Who is linguistics? Anyone who study language with the purposes to describe and explain any topic related to language. Not always need to form a theory, but it will be sufficient to produce a body of observation that are systematic or even to systematical state what is already known for a description purposes. Misconception about linguistics capable of speaking many languages confused with the translated and interprets but they can write a grammar of a language also she can't speak a linguistics interested in all languages of the world core of field of linguistics analytic approach to the language, phonetic production of a prospective sounds, phonology use of a sound and a languages, morphology words formation, syntaxis, sentence structure, semantic meanings of the word and how they combine into the sentence, pragmatic which link the language with the external world, social linguistics, the study of a language and a society, historical linguistics, the study of the language, psychological linguistics, first language acquisition SLA, applied linguistics, linguistic speech pathology, anthropographical linguistics, the study of a language in cross culture settings, compositional linguistics, the use of a computer to simulate the language and its work, stylistic, the study of language and literature, text linguistics, philosophical linguistics, the link between language and logical thoughts, and last, the perspective linguistics, how recent view of language should be like. So, a descriptive linguistics just describe how language are currently used, written, or spoke. Use as a correct, incorrect, right, wrong, good, bad depends on objective observation of the linguistic descriptive what the language is. So in this video, we in this video we read what is a language, introduction of linguistics, types of language, and how to use a language, the origin of the language, and introduction to the linguistics and type of linguistics. Well, for this video is enough, and watch my next videos. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.